Well, it's been a rather hot day again in Budapest as the heat wave continues all around Hungary. The good news is that currently, as things stand, the nuclear power station is still open. It is still pumping out some energy currently. As I look on my phone, it says it's producing 227 megawatts. That is of a normal capacity of 2,000 megawatts, so a little bit more than 11%. Hungary is using currently 6,368 megawatts, and it is importing 3,422 megawatts, so about half. Now, the imports are coming from our western, eastern, and northern neighbors. That would be Austria, Slovakia, Ukraine, and also actually a little bit, I think, from Romania. And we are exporting energy, as we always seem to do, to both Croatia and Serbia. This morning, though, Peter Magyar, our Prime Minister, he had a meeting with all the leaders of the various different opposition parties. This took place up in the residence of the President, or the stand-in President, Agnes Forsthofer, who is the Speaker of the House as well, although she's not doing that now because she's the President currently. And I think this meeting was all to do with getting everyone on the same page and to ask for a little lull in the fighting between them and to move towards a common stance around national unity. So asking people to conserve their electricity, asking people to also conserve their water, because that is also an issue. And did it go well? Well, not so great. So straight after the meeting, the head of the faction of Fidesz, who is János Borka, he basically came out and said that the meeting wasn't so great because it wasn't really about coming to an agreement. Of course, why would it be? Tisza is the government, they have a supermajority. They don't need to actually even take this meeting. They can just do what they want. So I saw it more as a courtesy rather than a necessity, and something that sort of plays well maybe with people, because it shows the supporters of Tisza that, look, he's trying to unite the country. And of course, in this moment of crisis, he absolutely is. There doesn't seem to be any let-up in sight to do with the weather. The levels of the Danube are falling, and as they fall, they're revealing more and more sort of lost secrets. So around some of the bridges in Budapest, the Szabadság híd, for example, you can see remnants of the bridge that preceded it, one that was blown up in World War II. In a place called Baja, they also found a shipwreck in the Danube. That's quite cool. Sort of more dangerous and a little bit less cool, which is why the authorities are asking people that if they find things, not to touch them. Batyányi tér, which is opposite the Hungarian Parliament building, they discovered a bunch of military ordnance, a hand grenade, some mines, I think 10 mines, all from World War II. And I just read actually that they found some other place, some unexploded World War II ordnance, this time from the United Kingdom, a 400 kilogram bomb. That is pretty bloody big. So the authorities are telling people to steer clear of things that you find in the water. Otherwise, the Minister of the Economy, István Kapitány, he spoke today about companies that have been following and taking the advice of the Hungarian government to slow down production. He has especially singled out Samsung, which strangely enough is a company that was in the spotlight in the run-up to the election. So in the run-up to the election, Tisza was effectively campaigning to have the Samsung factory shut down, and they wanted to have it shut down because it was, they say, guilty of massive pollution. Well, just recently, the last few days, the investigators have not found any pollution whatsoever, so that's sort of been pushed under the rug. And at the same time, our Minister of the Economy has effectively thanked Samsung for doing such a great job at lowering energy usage during the high point of the day. The high point of the day is afternoon 5 to 10, effectively reducing how many people work there, shifting to night shifts if need be. So they've been doing a really good job. But he also thanked Audi, BMW, Mercedes, Nestle, Richter, MOL, which is our oil group, and several others. So all in all, it seems as though these companies are taking the advice of the government, and that is a good thing, because our Prime Minister, Peter Magyar, has said that if they don't take the advice to lower their usage, then there will be fines incoming. So I think these people know which side their bread is buttered on. They're not stupid. Why take a risk? Why fall out of favor with the new leader, and they have chilled with production, and that's a good thing. While it seems like we might be importing a lot of energy at night, this is because, you might not know this, but Hungary has a massive solar power source or grid, or access to lots of different solar panel farms. Now, these were encouraged and built during the last 16 years under the Fidesz era, under Viktor Orban. This is something, again, that the leader of Fidesz wanted to mention. This is something that actually wasn't really mentioned during Viktor Orban's terms in office. When he was talking about the climate, he didn't really talk about how green and maybe even based he was when it came to solar power. I like solar power, I don't like wind power, just so you know. But yeah, during the day, it's impressive how much of the percentage of Hungarian energy comes from solar power. It's over 80%, which is just mind-blowing. Of course, we have clear skies and sun all day long, but still, that's a very, very impressive total. There are councils that are taking action specifically to do with water supplies. So some towns are actually running short of water, so they've done basic steps like turning off fountains, asking their population to reduce use for, in fact, stop watering their lawns and watering their flowers and this sort of thing. But it hasn't all been plain sailing. So one of Hungary's sort of entertainment newspapers, I would say, it's called Blik, B-L-I-K-K. Generally, if you want to have gossip about Hungarian superstars, and I use that term, I mean, superstars is doing a lot of lifting there. We don't have any superstars. Hungarian celebrities, then you turn to Blik. But because of this, Blik actually has a very wide reach, and it can call on lots of its readers to send them information when stuff happens. And they've been sending in tips effectively all day, talking about which villages and which cities are experiencing blackouts, as in no electricity. So this is during the day, so it's not a true blackout, but there have been villages, I'd say maybe 20, 25 or so, small ones, that have experienced power loss. Of course, I'm in Budapest, so it's easy for me to say, but Budapest seems to be holding up quite well. Unfortunately, we don't have any rain forecast for the near future. I was staring at a cloud all afternoon long, hoping that it would sort of break, but it didn't do that. We were at 36, 37, 38 all day long, and we could expect these temperatures to remain until at least Thursday or maybe even Friday. So we're hanging in there, but it's not so easy because it's really, really hot, and the thought of actually us running out of water, that's actually quite frightening. When I went shopping today, you could see that there was a run on bottled water. People had gone in and stocked up, and that is very, very strange. That is a new thing. That's something that used to happen in Memphis in Tennessee when I lived there. Whenever there was a tornado or a hurricane, suddenly all the bread and the water would be gone from the shelves because they always expected World War III. But that's how it is right now. If you like my stuff, give me a like, give me a share. Thanks.